Dune. Was the book or the movies better? Let's dive in and decide. Let's start with the differences between the characters from the page to the screen. First up, we have our protagonist, Paul Atreides, played by Oscar nominee Timothée Chalamet. In the book, he is described as having a small build with black hair. He has an oval face, long lashes, a thin nose, and a strong bone structure. In the movie, Chalamet is nearly picture perfect as Paul, with some fans even calling him a perfect casting. Next up, we have Lady Jessica, played by Rebecca Ferguson. In the book, she is described as having bronze hair, with a slim build and full lips. In the movies, Ferguson matches the description of the physical body characteristics, even down to the hair, which was colored with a reddish bronze tint. Rounding out the Atreides is Duke Leto I, played by Oscar Isaac. In the book, Leto is described as having dark olive-colored skin, angular features, and gray eyes. He is also known to be much taller than his son, Paul. In the first movie, Isaac matches his book counterpart with his tan skin, hawkish features, and wavy black hair. But Isaac is not much taller than Chalamet, so Paul and his father are practically the same height in the movies. We then have Gurney Halleck, played by Josh Brolin. In the book, he is described as having wispy blonde hair that is balding. He also has a scar across his mouth and is not an attractive man. In the movies, he is much more attractive with a full head of hair and a beard. The scar is also there, but not as prominent as it is in the books. Everyone loves Zendaya, who plays Chani. In the book, she is described as being a very skinny girl with enormous eyes and flaming red hair. In the movie, Zendaya retains the thin frame and has dark eyes that occasionally turn blue. Her hair, though, only appears red when the sun hits it. We also have to talk about fan favorite Stilgar, played by Oscar-winning Javier Bardem. In the book, he is described as having a thin nose and a full-lipped mouth, and a glistening black beard. He is not very imposing, and in the movies his features are more prominent and far more striking. And lastly, we have to talk about Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, played by Stellan Skarsgård. In the Dune universe, the Harkonnens are the most visually striking characters. In the book, the Baron is described as having fat, childlike fingers, fat cheeks, and a rumbling voice with spider black eyes. In the movies, the extensive makeup process and prosthetics makes Skarsgård look exactly like he looks in the book, if not even more terrifying. Now, let's talk about the biggest story changes between the book and the movies. One major difference in Dune Part 1 is that it eliminates the dinner party scene from the book. In the novel, the arrival of House Atreides on Arrakis is celebrated by Duke Leto and his people through a banquet for key people in the planet's society. This scene in the book is crucial because the Duke lays out his plans for the future, which involves some major changes to the status quo of the planet. In the movie, we find out about the Duke's plans in other sequences instead, like Leto and his son's one-on-one conversation on Caladan and their meeting with Stilgar. There are also some big character changes, especially with Liet-Kynes and their story arc, as they are quite different between the book and the movie. First off, Liet-Kynes is gender-swapped from male to female, although that is not a notable change by itself since the character is not necessarily defined by masculinity in the book. The major change is how they die. In the novel, they are punished by the Harkonnens for their allegiance with the Atreides and are left in the desert to die. In the adaptation, however, they got out more heroically. After helping Paul and Lady Jessica escape the coup, they are stabbed by soldiers in their attempt to flee with them. And speaking of character changes, Chani isn't said to be Liet-Kynes' daughter. In the novel, it is revealed that he is Chani's father, but the relationship is never mentioned in either film. There's also a gender swap change with Shishkali, who is male in the novel but female in the movie. In Dune Part 2, she is introduced as Chani's best friend and confidant, and the one who Chani whispers to when she's trying to get a proper read on Paul. Another major change that was truly consequential is the time jump that the book was known for. In the novel, Paul and Lady Jessica's integration into Freeman society comes with a 2-year time jump. This does not happen in the adaptation at all. There is a montage sequence in Dune Part 2 that shows Paul's desert training, Jessica's operation as the Reverend Mother, and the ongoing guerrilla war against the Harkonnen spice mining operations, but it doesn't last 2 years. Because of this, 2 pairs of childbirths simply don't happen. In the novel, it is during this time jump that Lady Jessica gives birth to Alia. Because she drinks the water of life while pregnant, Alia is born advanced, extremely capable, and with a deep connection to the Bene Gesserit. And since the film doesn't feature this time jump, we don't get to see the birth. Instead, Alia is established as a key character in the story because she can physically communicate with Jessica from the womb. Together, they plot to manipulate the Freeman people into believing that Paul is Lisan al-Gaib. The other child that wasn't born is Paul and Chani's. In the novel, they have a son named Leto, but the baby dies tragically during an attack by the Harkonnens. Chani and Paul have an intimate relationship in Part 2, but not enough time passes for them to get pregnant and have a child. Now, let's talk about what the movies got right and what they got wrong. One of the main strengths of the movies is the decision to split the book into 2 parts, allowing the story to really breathe. This approach acknowledges the world building in Frank Herbert's novel and allows the plot to progress in a well-paced manner. It not only reflects a deeper understanding of the novel's complexity, but also creates a new, expansive adaptation of Herbert's original novel. The most recent adaptations are epic and sprawling, which makes them stand out compared to previous adaptations. Thanks to 21st century technology alongside a massive budget from the studios, something that other adaptations simply did not have, Villeneuve adds grace and thrills and subtlety that allow for new audiences to digest the story and themes better. Another major strength is the strong performances by the film's star-studded cast. Chalamet's Paul perfectly captures the young character with the poutiness and dramatic theatrical flair. Ferguson's Lady Jessica showcases such a level of care, and the mother-son bond between her and Chalamet goes beyond the characters and is very believable. Brolin brings to life Halleck with such intensity and care for Paul, and it leaves the audience loving him. And then you have Jason Momoa's Duncan Idaho, another mentor for Paul, that balances out Brolin's Halleck with a fun and more playful take on Idaho that makes the duo become more of a good cop, bad cop situation. Sure, a lot of that is written in Herbert's novel, but the casting and performances really elevate that material. However, as much as the movies had their strengths, they did have a few weaknesses too. One major weakness of the adaptation is that it whitewashed the cultural specificity of Herbert's novel. Yes, the novel has been criticized already for the white savior narrative it presents, but at least in Herbert's novel, the Freeman people, who are heavily influenced by Middle Eastern culture and society, are at least written in a way to critique colonialism, a major theme of the book. The film fails to cast actors of Middle Eastern or North African descent in prominent roles, leading to a sense of erasure and tokenism. There's also a concern that the film selectively uses certain elements like clothing and makeup styles, set designs, and even musical tones to create an exotic or otherworldly aesthetic without fully understanding or respecting the original context. Which brings me to another weakness: the fact that the movies have a hard time capturing the complexity of the novel. Instead of exploring deeper themes like colonialism and the misuse of resources, it only briefly touches on them. The Freeman people are shown more for visual appeal than for their cultural depth, and in select scenes where we get more of a glimpse into their society, it's only a move to help further Paul's plot rather than actually exploring them with depth. Important political and social ideas from the book are mostly ignored in favor of adding more exciting action scenes. The book's thoughtful look at the mind and philosophy is mostly lost. Moments showing mental training or future visions look cool, but don't necessarily feel connected to the story. The idea of genetic memory is barely explained and shown only through unclear visuals. Overall, the film skips over the deeper questions about identity and consciousness that made the book so powerful in the first place. So, which one wins, the book or the movies? For me, the movies win. Despite their flaws, they have brought to life Frank Herbert's sci-fi world in such a cinematic way that outdid the original miniseries in the 80s. The memorable landscapes, production design, costumes, and special effects are out of this world, literally, while also maintaining most of the themes from Herbert's novel. But what do you think? Did the adaptations do the books justice, or do you prefer the original? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. And I'll see you next time right here on Collider.